Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask an Engineer. It's me, Lady Ada, the engineer. With me, Mr. Lady Ada, on camera control. We've got a fun show for you tonight. The next hour is full of 3D printing, electronics, retro tech, new products, videos, guides, updates, Circuit Python, and more. We're gonna jam it out. So much going on this week. Hope we don't get canceled. Mr. Lady Ada, tell them what's on
Well,
tonight's
I'll
show.
talk about that in a bit. On tonight's show, the code is a no rotary, a no rotary. It's for a product. It's a no rotary. 10% off in native for store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, or when I remember to turn the code off. Anything in the store that's in stock gets 10% off, including you also get the free stuff. Talk about our live shows. We just did show and tell. We'll do a little bit of recap from the Desk of LadyAda, which we did on Sunday, including the Great Search. Have a highlight from JP's product pick. Time travel, look around the world, makers, hackers, artists, engineers. We'll also show off some art from our offspring. We have some retro tech, some really neat stuff that is turning into the Adafruit Retro Museum. I'll show that off. Fun video from some factory footage we have. 3D printing, Ion MPI. This week it's from Bosch, where you can sensor tech like a Bosch. That's on IMPI. We'll do some top secret. We'll do some new products. We'll answer your questions. We'll do all of that over on Discord, adafruit.it/discord. That's where we answer all the questions and more. We do that each week here on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Da da da.
Okie dokie. So, Lady, this is the code, and people get free stuff. What do they get?
We still have some freebies, $99 or more. You get a Permaproto half-size breadboard as shown here. 149 or more, you get a KB 2040. They were in pink. We ran out of pink PCBs. Now they're in Adafruit black. Very gothy, but the same great RP 2040 microcontroller board with 4 megabytes of flash, STEMMA QT port, castellated pads, and you can use it in keyboard or any project that uses a Pro Mini breakout or Pro Micro breakout.
Yeah. Oh my God. Free shipping.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do a little bit of recap. So from the desk of Lady Ada, this week, we do it in two parts. Part one, Lady Ada, what did you show off?
Okay, this week I showed off the demo for that ANO rotary encoder. And I also showed off the tester for the Chuck keyboard breakout that's going to be also shown this week. So that basically this week's new products, I got the testers done over the weekend so we could get them into the store. So that's what I showed off on the desk.
Yeah, then we do the great search when you take a look around and look for things on digikey.com, help people find the things you're looking for. What did you help people find this week?
All right, so the TCS 34 something, I can't remember the whole part number, is a color sensor that we loved. We used many years. No longer available, was discontinued a little bit before actually the chip shortage, but chip shortage definitely like killed off any chance of getting more of these chips. So I want to find a replacement, something that can do color sensing, hopefully clear light sensing, interrupt output. Um, Basically as close as possible to match the TCS chip that we had. We found a couple good options, and I talked about them. Not as many color sensors as I would have expected available at DigiKey. There's only really 4 or 5 possibilities. So we looked at all of them and made a couple decisions. If you're looking for color sensing, RGB, light sensing, check out the video for a review of what DigiKey has in stock.
And we just got off the show and tell. We had some Adafruit guests. So Jepler showed a cool MIDI project, keyboard. Scott was showing off some new stuff that he's working on, including a really neat e-ink display. I liked his idea of like extending out a weather pattern,
Yeah.
kind of calendar style. And then we had folks show up and show off their projects. Joey had a cool feather. DJ Devin showed this really cool lamp. Brett had this cool kid display, because that's what you do when you're a parent. You just look at, yeah, when you put your kid to sleep, you just look at pictures of your kid. Turns
And you
out
have to
that's
have a
what you do.
temperature, humidity sensor.
Yeah, it's really neat. And then we also had, I think that was everyone. I have to check the show notes, but I'm not supposed to have favorites.
Yeah,
I
but
don't have favorites.
but
Mark had a keyboard synth thing as well. I'm gonna go with the wholesome, cool kid display
okay.
project. So
But they were all really good
they're all really
projects.
good.
I was impressed with how good the synth sounded.
Yeah,
Jennifer was like, "Oh, the synth is kind of like wobbly today," but it I think Mark came in and showed off. Hey, no, it looks sounds really good.
yeah. but since we've had a kid, we're showing some of the projects that we're doing, and other parents are showing that too. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about because show and tell is like I think the longest running video live online show and tell.
Is it about hating people?
Well, so here's what happened.
And
So here's what happened last
is
week.
it hate speech?
So here's what happened last week. I got some messages. I'm like, hey, how come the show and tell isn't on like Facebook or whatever? I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I looked at our Facebook account, which we just use to publish things. We kind of try to stay away from it the most we can. The show and tell got flagged as hate speech, which is kind of extreme. Like, not just like, hey, there was something infringing, or like, hey, someone reported. It's like, nope, skip, do not collect $100, do not to just go directly to hate speech jail. So they took down our videos, I think plural, but at least the latest one. And so we tried to hit the appeal button, and you can't. The only option was to agree that it's hate speech. So I'm just like, well, I'll just hit X. And then I tried to reach out to our Facebook rep, no answer. I tried Twitter because usually, for whatever reason, if you go through Twitter with the accounts that Meta and Facebook have, you can get a response. Nothing. And then it hit Hacker News. And then right when it hit Hacker News, because we put like, here's the transcript from the show. It's really wholesome stuff. How is this possible that it's hate speech? We had someone who was modifying their wheelchair, putting LEDs on it, music projects. And so obviously it was a mistake. Obviously there's some like AI algorithmy thing, but this keeps coming up quite a bit. So of course, a little bit later, we got a message, no explanation, just we're sorry, we got this wrong. So it's back.
At that point, was a human involved? I think it was just a robot talking to the robot.
It's back, and the message we got was sorry we got this wrong. So if you don't see our shows on some of the platforms, obviously something's going weird. But we don't even curse. And so anywho, we also are well aware that sometimes there's trolling. There are people who get angry with us because they can only buy one Raspberry Pi right now because of shortage, and they're like, "But I have a cluster I need to make.
I know.
I'm gonna get you." Some guy reported us to the Better Business Bureau today, so I had to fill out a form.
Again?
Yeah, he was angry.
He was angry.
He's like, "I should be able to buy as many Raspberry Pis as I want. I don't care who else needs them." I'm just like, "Wow, like you really kind of proved what we were saying is like some people are hoarding these. Please don't do that."
It's exactly. Unfortunately, this is why we have to do it. Like, believe me, it's a lot of work to go through all the orders. We would prefer not to do it.
So, anyways, I understand that that's part of it too, is people will weaponize these tools. Like we've had to report like actual hate speech and nothing happened. So if you don't see some of our content, some of the places, it's not because something happened. It's probably because something like this usually gets resolved. I kind of hate that it has to end up on like Hacker News or like somewhere in the news because not everyone has like it is shocking when it happens to someone like Adafruit. You get censored or you declared hate speech. But for a lot of smaller channels or for folks just getting started, it's discouraging because it's like I posted up a video of like Girl Scouts making electronics. Like, why is this hate speech? So, anyways, that's the story with that. So it's fully resolved, we think. Thanks for tuning in and being part of the adventure with us. JP's product pick of the week, which is also not hate speech, is every single week Tuesday we broadcast live from the product page. Here is this week's recap.
It is the Feather RP2040 with DVI for HDMI video output, an HDMI port that can be used to send DVI video out to your HDMI or DVI monitor. Feather RP2040 DVI. It is running CircuitPython code. This is a really lovely demo that ToddBot created. One of the screensaver demos that Phil B created. This is the Max Headroom one. A variation on some ToddBot video synth demos. I've got sliders to control things like the size and horizontal position of a triangle. As I move it, it's doing a nice little sort of fade effect. And I can also change the colors on that and set it rotating with a, let me set that to a nice slow speed. Oh yeah, look at that. It is the Feather RP2040 DVI with HDMI video output.
And don't forget, every Thursday you can tune into John Park's workshop. And on Fridays we have Deep Dive with Tim. Let's do some time travel.
Gonna go back in time. Gonna go back in time.
Okay, on Sunday it was Mother's Day, and speaking of wholesome content, It was our first Mother's Day here. Congratulations, happy Mother's Day.
Yay.
And happy Mother's Day to everyone was out there, or those who celebrate. So one of the things that we're doing, we show some of our projects that we're doing with Kiddo. We basically decided to keep her off social media. She can decide if it's for her later. But I'm like, you know what? I can show the hands,
Hands.
and I can show the projects. So our Kiddo did some art, and we share bits with all of you out there. You're part of our community. But I figured this is on the line. It's like, oh, it's the artwork. It's not her. There's no face. There's nothing like embarrassing later that she's gonna be like, I can't believe you showed me on the internet.
Yeah.
So this is really wholesome. She made this is our first painting. She's a young, and she's under 6 months old, but she did some painting. So here is a quick video that I edited together. That just the hands, just the art.
Just art.
Focus on the art.
Yes.
Not the artist. Day card from mommy. You are from mommy. And next, this is just kind of just some biz news here. So if you get an email from us and it's in your email client, such as Gmail, which a lot of people use, starting today, there's a little verification check mark. It's an option that we had to jump through a million hoops. So we had to prove who you are. We had to prove who the team was. We had to verify the business address. There's a lot of stuff that you can do through DigiCert and Google. And they basically say, hey, this email that you're getting is definitely from the company that's sending it. The scams out there are getting more and more sophisticated. So this is something we're doing for our community and our customers. No one should ever pretend to be Adafruit. We've seen some phishing scams in the past like that. So if you're getting an email from us and you're using, I think Gmail is your client, it'll show that this is from Adafruit. So that's a little bit of a change. I think they probably started this when like blue check marks were a thing. So now everything has a blue check mark. So that's what you'll notice. And then in other news, we're trying to get away. We're trying to get away from advertising on some platforms. So Facebook, we're not really a fan of and also their version of advertising is not compatible with what we like to do. So there's like really intense tracking that some of the social networks or the marketplaces do. We don't do that. And so it's not really a good match for us anyways. We're also trying to move away from Google Ads because while they were effective a long time ago, there's a lot of junk traffic and it just doesn't work. So we thought, well, let's try to put some great content in places that we actually like. And Tumblr, under new management, it's part of WordPress. And the folks over there we know. So we thought, well, let's try to move some of the budget that we normally use for Google and let's put it on Tumblr. So if you're on Tumblr, you'll see some of our ads and some people like it. So this is the feedback we're getting so far. We're putting some, you know what? This is pretty. Good job. Thank you. And we figure, if we put just beautiful things that happen to have electronics, that'll tell our story. Maybe people will be like, oh, I was thinking about getting into like mechanical keyboards. I remember seeing a cool video on Tumblr that Adafruit had. So we're going to try to just provide good information, which sometimes ends up being good advertising. But we really want to find ways to put, like, ads are part of our lives. I think everyone's an expert in advertising, but it doesn't mean it has to be crummy. So if you see it over on Tumblr, you can hit a like. We're not using any of the tracking functionality that I think normal companies use. Like, we don't do remarketing. We don't do a lot of things. Click the link. That's the only time we know that anything worked out. So anyways, check it out. Let's do some retro. Okay, this week in retro tech, this is kind of cool. Let's just first let's show the commercial for it.
We are the Dome Hits. We are the perfect family, and we play the perfect electronic game. Computer perfection. Watch our daughter challenge her memory by lighting the lights in perfect sequence.
Computer perfection beats out clues and keeps score.
With millions of games in its head, we can play alone.
Or against each other. I won, honey.
Oh well, nobody's perfect.
Computer perfection from Lakeside. In the world of electronic games, it's outstanding.
Okay, 1979, Computer Perfection. This was released by Lakeside. It was a groundbreaking electronic game touted the ultimate playmate. The game, housed in a transparent blue dome, was activated by lifting the dome, and it revealed 4 games and 3 skill levels to choose from. The 4 games that it offered up were Countdown. You'd try to get 10 lights in the correct order with the fewest number of moves. Black Hole, another one-player game. Black Hole was the same objective Countdown, but would add a twist. If you pressed an unready lit button, the game would turn off all the lights ahead of it, the light itself. Here's the box, by the way. Brain Battle, that's the 3rd game. A 2-player game. One player had to turn off all the lights starting with number 1, while the other player had to turn all the lights on starting with number 6. Light Race. 2-player game, a race to turn on more than 5 lights. It wasn't supposed to be a game, more than a game. It was supposed to be something that was like half computer at the time, because this was like when computers were introduced. And it was supposed to be like a sophisticated game that was like very electronic, but also something kind of like a board game. One neat thing about it, a little bit of trivia, it hit some major media attention. Not really, but back in the day, the show Buck Rogers in 21st Century, in the episode Mark of the Sarin, viewers can notice Computer Perfection's distinct blue dome beside Buck Gilgerard's bed in the Searcher sick bay. So that is this week's Retro Tech. This is the perfect family. And
their heads are blue.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. This is and JP is currently turning this into a synth.
I think that's like the Atari 2600 switches. Like that's like the
Yeah.
like that's what was available. You could tell, and there's like, okay, we have a green LED and a red LED.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're like, okay, computers are here, but we still make board games, so we have to, like, you're into computers? Well, you're going to like this. We're calling it Computer Perfection. It looks like,
Cool.
yeah, the enclosure is beautiful.
Yeah, the blue dome. I'm surprised. Good condition it's in.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some Python on
It's all the
hardware.
lead.
Okay, this week in the newsletter, the biggest news, and congratulations to the team on this.
0.
400 CircuitPython compatible boards. More than half.
400.
Nothing to do with Adafruit.
No, most of them are not Adafruit boards. Actually, so search. Let me type in Adafruit. I actually don't know the answer, but type in Adafruit or filter
Yeah.
for made by Adafruit.
So one of the things that, yeah, you can see this here. So
Just click that. Okay, so then and you have to press the X over
Yeah.
here. Okay, 88. So less than a quarter of the boards here are Adafruit
Yeah.
boards.
So that
Most are
means-
not ours.
So that means that there's companies, people, open source projects, all are using CircuitPython as the firmware that runs on their device. Every single time there's a CircuitPython update, automatically they get it for their board. And there's 400 total, or there's more than 400.
404.
And 88 are from Adafruit.
Wait, 410. Wow, a bunch just came in.
Yeah, and so these are the most popular or the newest ones, but let's take a look at filters. Let's
Those are actually, sorry, those are the most
download it.
downloads. You want to sort by newest first.
Yeah, okay, so the most
Wait,
downloaded
so-
right now are Picos, Mini Sans.
Although I'll say this is not one. It depends on the release, so it's a little confusing. So
Here's-
just do do like
let's
date.
let's do the newest ones
Yeah.
that just came in. So the newest ones that just came in, you can look at the RP2040 LCD.
Some
There's a feather. Here's some new ones. So when you see,
boards.
yeah, when there's ones that aren't photos, that means the information isn't up there yet, but
Yeah.
they're working on it. Liligal, Pomeroni, more Pomeroni stuff. Lots of Pomeroni stuff actually. A M5 stick, a watch. There's a lot going on here,
a
and
lot of TT Go stuff, a lot of like random ESP32, S3, and S2 boards, and that's cool. Yeah, like
yeah.
load them up.
Sparkle.
Scilabs submitted a bunch of boards for their EFR32. They ported CircuitPython.
Look at
Then,
this
yeah, look like they did.
menagerie of boards.
There's a
And
lot of boards.
I remember when we had 5.
Club. What's that? Wait, hold on. What's that? The Hack Club Sprig.
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool. What's this?
This is a neat way to look at hardware too.
I never even heard of this thing.
So
This looks cool.
you can get the nightly builds for this stuff. You can get the UF2. one of the things that we wanted to do was have a way for people to get the latest firmware for their hardware. That was the hardest thing. And there was like all sorts of websites that tried to do it, or like lists, and there's a zip file. Nearly impossible. We think we've solved this. And then for the folks who like to see charts, this is what it looks like over time. I'll disappear us here. But from January 1st of 2018 all the way up to January 1st of 2023. That's a nice chart, right?
It's yeah, we did the math because it's been about 100 years since we did our last. Every 100 we do an announcement, and so it's been, let's see, from now to the last one was basically a year, and it's 2 boards a week on average.
Yeah,
that's great.
So keep on going, and thank you everyone in the community who's doing stuff with CircuitPython, using it in their hardware, and making electronics way too easy. So other things in the newsletter, we posted up that SuperCon 2023 is coming. So Hackaday's putting that on with SupplyFrame. You can check out tons and tons of projects if you wanted to get MicroPython, working with AWS. That's there. This is kind of neat. This is an RP 2040 to Open Tesla charging port.
Yeah, and it's like you use you read what the code is for your car, and then you can replay it.
Then we have some joystick stuff. We're going to show that in the top secret section. And then just like the entire menagerie of projects that are kind of unending. Every single week.
Yeah.
And does an amazing job with the newsletter. Please, please, please consider subscribing. It's over on Adafruit Daily. We don't spam. Delivers to your inbox every single week. Get it on Adafruit Daily. We have other newsletters, but this is one of our more popular ones. So check it out. Let's do some open source hardware news, LadyAda. We're an open source hardware company. To prove it, we release tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of guides. What are the new guides this week?
Okay, lots of guides this week indeed. So we've got from Kattni, the Feather RP2040 RFM 95. This is a 900 megahertz LoRa chip on an RP2040 Feather with like a UFL connector for easy antenna. It's like the easiest, lowest cost LoRa board that we've got. I think it's going to be great because CircuitPython runs wonderfully on the RP2040. We've got the 3D printing project of the week. This is a full 360 Epcot Spaceship Earth with NeoPixels. It's like a V4, I think, or V3 icosahedra. I don't know what the name of this shape is. It's got LEDs in it. It looks just like Epcot Center, and it's running WLED as the software to control the animations. You've got a guide for the CAN bus Feather as well. It's an RP2040 with a CAN bus transceiver, the popular MCP2515 chipset. We've got the DVI Pi cowbell. So if you got a Pico W, you want to add DVI output really easily. It does all the pin routing for you, and does the level shifting as necessary, so you can easily add DVI output on CircuitPython or Arduino. And can you scroll up one? Phil B wrote a really good guide on USB PD hacks. USB Type-C power delivery is very handy if you would like to get 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 or 20 volts into a project. You don't want to use a DC power jack. You can often use an off-the-shelf USB-C power supply. He goes through some of the USB PD products that we've got, tips and tricks on how to update old designs, because a lot of old products, like, you need some like random ass gigantic power brick and you just don't have it anymore. You don't want to manage that. Pop a USB-C on there or use one of our USB PD cables. He chats all about it. We've also got the cowbell version of the CAN transceiver. So if you have a Pico or Pico W, you want to connect into CAN bus networks, you can do that. I think from last week, we did the Feather Think Ink. That guide's live now too. So you can take e-ink displays and connect them to an RP2040 very easily. And by Robert Dale Smith, the USBification of the Fisher-Price game controller for kids. Turns out it's actually a really good, it has all the buttons working, so you can turn it into an actual game controller with a KB2040.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, because I think it's worth taking an additional look. So this is we have this for our kid. She's not quite old enough yet, but she's gonna be. And so you can turn this really good game controller that doesn't control games
And you
into
can keep
something
in the
that
old mode. Like you
does.
can make the sounds, but it can also do USB.
Yeah, and I think someone like a professional gamer won a gaming competition with this too, because they're just like, hey. But like I was saying before in the show and tell, when I was at Make Magazine, I used to write about how great it would be if manufacturers use screws instead of glues, had replaceable batteries, made enclosures that you could do other stuff with. And sure enough, I didn't have a kid at the time. That's what was going on. Like these Fisher Price things are indestructible. They're low cost, and you can unscrew everything and you can put batteries in. These are like amazing enclosures for electronics. So if you're thinking of just making something and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do injection molding, I don't have time to 3D print, take a look at kids' toys.
It's cheaper than getting the injection molding done.
Yeah.
If something's close enough.
And you know what thrift stores have? Piles and piles and piles.
And they don't change. They're the same year over year.
Yeah, they really are. Okay, let's do some factory footage. And that's the factory footage this week. Don't forget, the code is ANO Rotary, 10% off the native store, all the way up to 11:59 p.m. We're going to do some 3D printing now. So before we play the latest video and the speed up, wanted to say congratulations to Noe and Pedro, the longest running 3D printing show. They're up to episode 400.
Unbelievable. And still something new and interesting every single week.
There are people who've learned what a 3D printer is, to learning how to make stuff, to becoming an engineer, or doing all sorts of cool things with 3D printing over the course of, it's what, like 7 or 8 years now that we've been doing this.
Unbelievable.
So congratulations, Pedro, and thank you everyone who tunes in every single week. The most important part of a show is often the audience. So let's watch a couple videos. We'll see you on the other side.
You can 3D print your Epcot Spaceship Earth with NeoPixel LEDs and parts from Adafruit. Spaceship Earth is the iconic attraction at the Epcot theme park at Walt Disney World. The attraction was upgraded in 2021 with new lighting fixtures to create a new nighttime show. Our DIY build features 156 NeoPixel LEDs that wrap around our 3D printed geodesic sphere. Each LED is set in between the isosceles triangles to resemble the points of lights, just like the attraction. The design also features 3 angled legs and a center pillar that resemble the physical architecture. This project uses the WLED software to create an ESP32 based web server so you can remotely control the LEDs with your mobile device. The software features a mobile-friendly interface that lets you change colors and trigger different animations. It comes loaded with dozens of effects that you can customize using sliders to adjust different settings. Each effect features its own set of parameters that you can adjust, such as speed, size, and feed rates. With presets, you can save your favorite effects to create a playlist so you can run them back to back to create your own nighttime light show. The sphere is split into 2 halves that are joined together with neodymium magnets. These NeoPixel strands feature flexible wires. Each LED is hot glued in place and wraps around the sphere in a spiral direction. This uses the Adafruit Cutie Pie ESP32 Pico and a NeoPixel BFF driver board to provide a 5V level shifter and a detachable JST connector. These 2 boards make it easy to develop IoT projects with NeoPixel LEDs. A USB-C breakout extends the Cutie Pie's USB port to the center pillar of the sphere. It's secured to the bottom cover and snap fits into the pillar, so it's modular and easy to take apart. To learn how to build your own, check out the guide at learn.adafruit.com. We hope this inspires you to check out WLED and Adafruit's Cutie Pie to create your own IoT NeoPixel projects.
And once again, congratulations, 400 episodes. Here's to another 400. Okay, LadyAda, let's mention the code one more time, and then let's kick off some Eye on MPI.
Eye on MPI.
Okay, Eye on MPI brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. This week it is Bosch. I saw this on their social media, and I thought this was kind of funny. Sensor
put it in the
tech,
text.
like a Bosch.
Like a Bosch.
And this week, LadyAda, what is the NPI? New product introduction.
Okay, well, this week is actually sent in by a lovely viewer. They wanted me to highlight this. I was like, that is pretty cool. I somehow missed this new sensor from Bosch. It's the BMI 323. It is a fairly low cost. It's an affordable but high quality 6DOF, sometimes called 6DOF, degree of freedom sensor. It's got accelerometer, gyroscope, temperature sensor, all in one little package, easy to pick and place. Some things that want to highlight, we'll chat about how to use it, but it's 2 16-bit digital resolution sensors. That's actually quite unusual. Usually you get only maybe 10 or 12-bit resolution. 16-bit's quite nice. The 0 offset and is only for the gyro. The gyro is kind of where you want to look at the specs to make sure they're good, because that's going to affect your fusion more than the accelerometer. Accelerometers are fairly good these days. The gyro has, plus or minus 1 degree of, plus or minus 1 degree per second drift or offset, which is pretty good. You can get better, but you're gonna have to pay a lot more. Whereas this sensor is only a couple bucks. It's very good for the price. A lot of other details. The accelerometer is pretty standard. Goes plus minus 248G, 248 16G, and the gyroscope goes plus minus 125 up to 2,000 degrees per second. There's also an onboard digital temperature sensor. which you can use as part of your like temperature compensation management. Sometimes the sensors do drift with temperature, but it's also just, they tossed another sensor on there. It's basically an all-in-one little ready to go fusion chip. More technical specs, like I think we mentioned, the gyros is pretty good, and this also has the noise, which is 7 microseconds per root hertz. Sorry, can you zoom, make the window bigger? Yeah, sorry, my I can't see text volume. Thank you. It's yes, it's 7 millisecond per square root hertz. Noise density for the gyro, which is pretty good, and a nice range of bandwidths for an output data rates up to 6 kilohertz. So good if you want to do fusion, you'll want to get nice quick data. And there's built-in filters that can do some basic low pass and high pass filtering if necessary. Other things that I thought were really neat about this sensor, it has the standard I2C, but also SPI and I3C support, which we've covered on earlier ion NPIs. We talked about I3C and how it's different than I2C. And I looked, the interrupts you can have the interrupts. There's external pin interrupts to digital IOs, or if you're using I3C, you can have it sense with, in-band interrupt support. So you only need 2 pins if you're using I3C. The Bosch IMUs that we really like, one of our favorites is the B&O 055. We've used it for so long. It's the same company, Bosch Sensor Tech, that manufactures it. This is a sensor that has accelerometer, gyro, and magnetometer all together. So it's got 9 degrees of freedom, but you're going to pay for it. You see, the pricing is much more expensive. Instead of like, $2 or so, it's, 7 to 15, depending on how much you're purchasing. Inside is also a SAMD21, which is pre-programmed with Fusion algorithm, and then you talk to that SAMD21. You don't program that chip, you talk to it over I2C. And that's great if you want to just get started very quickly, but again, you're going to have to pay the extra price for that Fusion chip. Whereas, if you do want Fusion data, which most people do, you want to get like Euler angles, so in X, Y, and Z space, either Euler or Quaternion location, and that lets you know, like, it's easier way for you to determine gesture, to determine which way it's pointing, what motions are doing. If you're going to feed this into AI gesture recognition systems, oftentimes you're going to feed it Euler angles. To do this, you'll have to do your own fusion. So you'll probably want to also pick up a magnetometer. I looked in the BMM 150. Look at that, for 40,000 in stock. This is a beautiful thing, by the way. For years, it was like, I knew it was so tough to cover stuff because it was in stock. But if you want a magnetometer, this is a good one. Also I2C, capable, low cost. You can see it's like about $1 or so. Very tiny, and it gives you X, Y, and Z. It's pretty common that you have one chip for accelerometer and gyro, and then another for magnetometer. One, because the magnetometer often has to be placed away from other chips. And so, and also like the process by making magnetometers is a little bit different. So it's not too unusual for like the magnetometer to sort of sit on the corner of the PCB, and the accelerometer and gyro to sit in the center or maybe near a weighted thing so it doesn't have as much vibration. Because the magnetometer vibration doesn't affect it, but a speaker or like big chunks of metal, a lot of current flow can. So some of the things you have to think about if you're laying out a circuit board with these 2 chips, but combine them together and you get 9 degrees of freedom. And then you can run the BSX sensor fusion software that Bosch provides, which is really nice. There are some free libraries. Even Adafruit, we have a couple of free examples. PJRC also published some sensor fusion software using free algorithms. But if you're using Bosch sensors, you might as well use their sensor fusion software because, again, it's free, it's published. You will need to have 9DOF, though, to get full orientation in 3D space. I downloaded it. You have to approve a license. The license basically says you can only use it with Bosch things. That's very normal. And you can see the output you get is either Quaternion, XYZW, or Euler angles, heading, pitch, roll, and yaw. So, that's usually good for pretty much everything. Only downside is you're going to have to make sure that your chip is one of the ones that's supported with the library, because the library has pre-compiled binary blobs. Again, Bosch sort of does this in general. There's a couple companies where they'll provide a library, and sort of to make sure that you really, only use their stuff with their stuff, they don't publish the code itself. They give you a binary blob. And in this case, it seemed to be only available for the ARM Cortex chipset. So you see the M0, M0 Plus, M1, M3, M4, M4 with FPU, and M7. 80-ish% of people are going to be using Cortex chips. If you're using something like Tensilica, they have, for other libraries, not this one, released, Tensilica, which is ESP32 or maybe RISC-V. Email Bosch, they'll probably compile it for you and send it along or add it to the bundle. Just FYI on that, though, because I don't want people to get stuck not realizing it, that they do have code for the chip, but the Fusion code is pre-compiled. The chip itself is a QFN-ish package, or whatever, DFN, whatever it's called. It has a few, yes, there's this fusion thing that you can do, but there's a couple filters and behavior things that it can do on the inside, like it can do some detection of behaviors, step detection. It can do single, double, and triple tap, not too uncommon with the accelerometer. Orientation, hysteresis for motion. There's a big FIFO, which is quite nice, and data synchronization, which means that if you do want to do gesture recognition or pump this into a fusion system, because you can't really drop any data, you'll want to have all the data in the FIFO, and then you can read it all at once and pump it bit by bit into your fusion software. You're not constant, you don't have to maintain the fusion software constantly. You can do it every 2K worth of FIFO data. So, depending if you're doing, 1 kilohertz, that means only maybe half a second or a quarter second, you have to read all the data and read all at once, which isn't, too bad. But take advantage of that. And then there is a full data sheet with, absolutely everything that you need to read every register, set every filter. However, if you just want to get right in there and have this work with your microcontroller or microcomputer, there's a publish C API. This doesn't have any binary blobs, so you can port it to whatever platform you like. Inside the examples folder is a common.c and common.h, and that's where you would put in your SPI or I2C or I3C and delay. Those are kind of like the read, the write, and then delay functions for whatever protocol you're using. You implement that, and the rest of it comes out. You can then grab the accelerometer and gyroscope data, feed it into your own sensor fusion, or just use it as is if you can just use the raw data.
Available on DigiKey.
In stock.
Available on DigiKey.
So much.
Available on DigiKey.
10,000 pieces.
Yeah. In the chat, folks are like, we need another song about the chip surplus.
I know. That's we've got too many chips, but good for us because it means that you can actually design stuff and know that you'll be able to get the component by the time you're ready for production. So a great, basic $2-3 6DOF IMU, very competitive with the current market. Good performance, good specs. I like that 16-bit and good software support as well.
Okay, that is this week's INPI. Okie dokie, we're going to do new products before you go over there. It's Anno, Rotary, LadyAda, let's... All right, this week, first up.
Okay, first up, we've got this little adapter. This is for the Quick 861. It's a very, very nice hot air system that we've got. Only thing that's a little annoying is it uses hot air tips that are not compatible with the low cost ones. This little adapter, it's a couple bucks, and you put it onto the 861 hot air gun, and it lets you use the low cost hot air tips. We carry a pack of 10 that has QFN and 100 QFP pins and all everything. Makes it easy to do large packages, so you don't have just the round nubs on the end of your hot air station.
Okay, next up.
Next up, we've got some chalk breakouts. So we have done lots of keyboard projects. And if you have used any of our keyboard breakouts or macro pads, whatever, you know that we tend to use the MX, Cherry MX compatible switches and sockets. But some people want something thinner. So if we go to the overhead, I'll show the difference.
Yeah, let me show some of these.
So this is, yeah, we'll get back to them.
Get back to them.
I'll get back to them. Okay. So this is well, get this out of the way. I love Did You Keep, but it's a little confusing to see it. So this is like, our feather wing with Neo key, and it's got two MX switches, and you see they're quite tall. There's two different keycaps. This one's kind of like the shortest keycap you can get. This is kind of a standard keycap, but it's very tall. A lot of people want something nice and short. So this is the chalk by comparison. So it's like, definitely less than half the height of the MX. It's a very, very slim style, and the keycaps are very slim. So if you want like a low, laptop keyboard like key height, the chalk switches are where it's at. They're totally incompatible in every way from the MX, which is the keycaps. You can't use MX with chalk or chalk with MX. The keys are totally different. You can't use them in different sockets. So this is a completely separate breakout just for chalk switches, and I'll show even on the bottom, the socket is totally different than the socket that we use for MX switches. You can see the two sockets here, but so we made a little breakout, to account for all the differences so you can quickly breadboard chalk projects. Another thing just to note, compared to the MX breakout, these breakouts are 1 row taller, so they're 0.1 inch taller, longer, because of the way that the socket fit for having the having the socket fit on the PCB. Because it has to fit a little bit higher, I had to extend the circuit board. So just FYI, it's even though it looks just like the Neo key for the MX, it's like a totally different configuration and a totally different pinout. The pinout's the same, but totally different PCB size. So let's go back to the
photos.
Yes, the photos. Okay, so that's the demo. You can connect as many of them as you want. They come with diodes built in. So if you would like to have an array of them, go to town. They're diode connected. There's also a little reverse mount NeoPixel, a socket. We stock both the clicky and linear chalk switches, but of course you can use any chalk compatible. NeoPixel shines through, and then breakouts on the left and right that connect the NeoPixel input output, the NeoPixel power and ground, and then the switch anode and cathode. It goes through a diode, so that's why it's labeled anode and cathode.
Okay, and then the star of the show tonight, besides you, LadyAda, our team, our customers, our community is
Okay, with the ANO rotaries, that's the name of the rotary encoder. It's the part number is called ANO, so that's why it's called ANO. The rotary encoder with Seesaw. So this is, we've had this encoder for a bit. I love it because it's basically iPod Classic rotary encoder, where you've got the little click wheel in the center. It's a rotary encoder, and then up, down, left, right, and select. But the thing that's a little annoying about it is there's 5 buttons and 2 encoder pins, and it's a lot of pins. And before you know it, you're like, I've just used half of my microcontroller GPIO. And, you're constantly pulling the encoder. And so why not make it a lot easier for people by making a breakout board where on the back is an ATtiny 816, the little AVR chip. And the code is up on GitHub if you'd like to take a look at how it does this. It can keep track of the encoder, so it just keeps a little counter of how many clicks left or right. It can read the buttons, and it can also have 4 different address select switches. You can theoretically have 16 of these, all over I2C, 3 or 5 volts. So it's very easy for you to connect this up to your Raspberry Pi, which doesn't even have rotary encoder support, or other single board computer. You can connect it up to an Arduino, you connect it up to a Pico, you can connect it up to pretty much any microcontroller, as many as you like. You can even connect it to a computer by going through one of our dev boards, or one of our USB to GPIO converters that runs CircuitPython. And on board is a little Seesaw chip, and there is an IRQ output if you'd like, but It also works just great over I2C as long as you don't mind asking it every once in a while. Hey, are there any buttons pressed or any rotary encoder clicks going on? And that's it. That's the new product. You can show the little demo video. So this is just the hand, and you can see it's plugged into a 7-segment display, and then it just counts up and down as you click the rotary encoder.
That's new products. Okie dokie, here's what we're going to do. You're going to post up your questions in the chat, adafruit.it/discord or discord.gg/adafruit, and then we're going to answer them. But before we do that, and while you're typing there, we're going to show a bunch of top secrets. So we have a bunch. I'm going to go after these videos, one after the other, then we're going to show some stills, and we're going to show some logos, and then we'll answer all your questions. So here we go. It's top secret time. What is this?
This is me working on a new prototype. This is a quad rotary encoder to stemma QT converter. It's got an ATtiny 817 that's reading all the encoder pins and the switch pins, and there's even underlit neopixels. And for most rotary encoders, you actually can't see the LED. I mean, you can see it kind of behind my finger, but there do exist rotary encoders that have a translucent body. And although these don't have a switch, they do shine the LED light through, so you can get a really cool effect, especially if you have a translucent knob. So I'll have the underlit reverse mount neopixels, even though for the most part you can't see them when you're using these low-cost rotary encoders. But I think with the translucent ones, it's a very cool look. So all over I2C, and this demo is running on my Arduino Uno compatible over here. Soon in the Adafruit shop.
All right, LadyAda, what's this?
This is me making a little demo for our new ANO encoder to stemma QT converter. It's got an ATtiny 816, which is doing the conversion from this rotary encoder and switches to I2C. So it's really easy, and you can see this little LED letting me know when activity has occurred. And I have it hooked up with a RP20 QT Py over I2C to the 7-segment display, and then as I turn the knob, it's counting the pulses, so it's doing a good job catching all those pulses. And then if I press the select up, left, right, and down button, it also displays that. So really nice example of some plug and play stuff that used to be really, really hard to do, but with stemma QT and Seesaw and QT Py, it's as easy as pie. Coming soon to the Adafruit shop.
LadyAda, what is this?
This is an advanced Gravis joystick that I just took apart. I'm making a little board that will let you use PC joysticks with any microcontroller. It does the analog digital conversion, the button reading, and these joysticks are all PC joysticks, and they use a DE15 port. And I wanted to figure out, I never actually had a PC joystick, so this is my first time kind of messing with one. And I just plugged it in, and it wasn't working at first, and so I took it apart because I wanted to trace everything out. And then I realized, so on the side, these switches actually select mechanically which button connects to which pin on the DE15, and I had them all centered because I thought oh, you want it centered, but actually that means that none of them were actually selected to working. Another neat thing is, so now they're all connected directly, and there's 3 buttons connected to 2 outputs. Another interesting thing is the potentiometers on this joystick. You'll see as I twist the pots go back and forth. They're not connected as a divider because on the PC side, there's no analog digital conversion. They didn't have ADCs. That was very expensive. So what you do is actually you feed this variable resistance into an oscillator, like a 555 or something similar, and then measure the pulse width. So on the other side, I need to add, and you can see over here, the matching 10K resistors that form the divider that then go into this ADC, because nowadays ADCs are a lot cheaper.
LadyAda, what is this?
This is a Gravis Advanced joystick. This was a state-of-the-art PC joystick. It's got that joystick, 2 analog potentiometers. It's got a button up here, 2 buttons up down here. Note that the PC joystick spec actually only allows for 2 buttons, so there's 3, but you can remap them. And the remapping is actually done over here using these, well, they look like potentiometers, but they're actually mechanical switches that lift and disconnect the contacts for the different buttons, which I just learned about. And then over here, we've got the X and Y and the different buttons output. And this is going into a Cutie Pie board through a Stemma QT design that I just wrapped up. It's got an AT Tiny 816 that does all the analog digital conversion. I have to like quickly remember the math for how to calculate the variable resistor when you have a fixed lower resistor in the resistor divider. All is working well though, and will be in the Adafruit shop soon.
LadyAda, what is this?
This is me making a tester for this new Seesaw board. This is a gamepad. It's going to make it really easy for people to add little game controllers to their projects. It's got an analog thumbstick, XY, and then 4 nice squishy buttons to press and then select and start. So you can do for emulators, but anything that just needs a little game interface, and you just plug it over Stemma QT. I use a Metro M0 to program it, and I use UPDI, which is how you program the AT Tiny series. Press this down, press the button, it connects, it programs the chip. Hold on, sometimes I have to reset it. Okay, and then it says I have to press the buttons. So then I press each button and then it's past test. So we're gonna get this into the Adafruit shop soon. It's gonna be so cool and cute.
All right, and then we have some designs here. So what's this?
This is a small USB hub. We had a couple projects we wanted to embed a USB hub into something because we had like 2 things we wanted to connect to it with one USB cable. And you can buy hubs, but sometimes you want to like put it inside of an enclosure. So this is just
But I want to hub in my thing.
this is just like a hub breakout, basically. So it's got
Hub in everything.
USB-C, and then it's got also maybe you want to sometimes not have the data pins connected. And it's got 4 ports output, and then the USB host is duplicate. So just like hub breakout. I don't know, it's kind of cool. And then this is a ideal diode chip. I found it in my pile, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot to design a board for it. So I got samples like 2-3 years ago. And then this is somebody asked, oh hey, can you have a micro SD BFF and you have an I2S amplifier BFF coming out soon. What if you mix the two? And I was like, oh yeah. I was gonna do that. It was like they reminded me.
This was
so I put
tooted at us, and
somebody boosted the toot.
someone boosted the toot,
And we were like, oh,
nice like, that's a good toot that's been boosted.
Goot.
What's interesting? What's interesting is the way social media works for us is like, there's like crummy people out there that insult each other and dunk on each other. However, you could just ask for hardware and we'll probably make it.
Yeah.
It's like a magic lamp.
Yeah, they just asked
like
like 24 hours later. I was like, hey, here's the
we're like, that's a good idea. So imagine if all of that negativity, instead of it, people being crummy to each other, was turned into requests for a better world together. Anywho, so we're working on the Circuit Pirate. Last week or so, I was like, I think we're going to call it the Circuit Pirate. It's the next version of what the Bus Pirate is. We wanted to kind of keep the theme,
nautical theme,
maybe, but then we're like, you know what, we could actually go a different way. So I think we might, one of the names it might be Bitraider, because this still works. But then we're like, what's kind of cool? Protocol droids. So we're playing around with the name Protocol Droid instead, because it speaks all different protocols, and then we can have this cool little droid, and it would be called Protocol Droid. In the chat, I'll post up some of the other names that we were thinking of, just because these are always fun, so you can see our process. There was let me go back here. Let me go back. I think what's your favorite one?
The top one.
This one?
No.
This one?
No, the one above it. Keep going.
This one?
Yeah, the one on the right.
So some of the other names, this is pirate themed. Arm Matey, Bandwidth Buccaneer, Bit Raider, Busbanger, Byte Brigade, Byte Buccaneer, Digital Deckhand, Freebooter, Hardware Hawk, Logic Looter, Signal, Sea Dog. Oh, it was good. So that's Washington.
I like Signal Sea Dog kind of the most. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, Voltage Viking and Protocol Droid, which is not pirate themed at all, but we're like, what? Just the way the letters fit together and everything, it's kind of neat. So we're gonna make sure we'll check with our lawyer folk, because there's been things referred to as protocol droids, but it's kind of a generic term. I mean, I can call anything a protocol droid. So that's what we might do. Anyways, that's a preview of what this next bus pirate-like thing might be called. That's top secret. Okay, questions. We're gonna do the what if it was a robot pirate? Yeah, robot. Has anyone? Oh, you know what? That's a good question. Is there any like anime or any cartoon series or anything where the pirates are robots?
Oh, I'm sure there's anime of those pirates and robots.
Yeah, if anyone finds it, post it up in the Discord chat if there's a specific robot, like robot pirates. I guess there would be a version of a world where there's robots, and then some of them have boats, and then some of them decide to be pirate robots to rob the regular robots of their stuff on the high seas.
High silicon seas.
Yeah. Okay. So here's questions, LadyAda. What is the hardest PCB design you've done recently? What made it so difficult?
I think the Metron 7 was the toughest one recently because it was delayed for so long due to chip components. Yeah, that was a tough one. There's a lot of parts on it too.
Yeah, we just posted up some cool videos of it in the subway because it's subway themed. Okay. Tata posted up. Have I seen that working next box? There's a MIDI stuff, a MIDI project.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a game called Robot Pirates. Oh look, okay, here it is. So if you're in Discord, you got to look at this because there's a robot pirate game.
That looks.
Is the mermaid a robot? No, the mermaid's a regular human mermaid, but then there's robot pirates. Yo-ho and a bottle of ram. You're a robot pilot. So let's see. Jump on the ships, collect as many. Crazy Cat is fun. Frantic for all generated ships and those challenges. Okay, you're a robot pilot.
It's $1.99, guys. Can't go wrong.
Yeah. High seas. Okay. I think there's not that many questions this week, which is
Some weeks is a lot.
the show. Let's see, go on. Going twice. Okay. That's our show. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget the code is ANO Rotary. We'll see everybody here next week. We have a bunch of show stuff going on. Please continue to post pirate robot stuff up. Very much appreciated. And special thanks to Cara running things behind the scenes. This has been an Adafruit production. We will see everybody next week. Here's your moment of Zener.